Hello, everybody. We got people showing up in the pre-live. Man, what's up, everybody? Hi, Sam. Hi, Brian. Hi, Carrie. Hey, Amber. Chris is here. By accident, maybe. Anybody else that's popping in as you get here, say hi in the comments. Let us know you're here. Say hi to each other. Say hi to me. Most importantly, say hi to Gretchen, who I'm happy to have here. Hi, Gretchen.
Hi.
I know a lot of y'all who are there in the comments, like you guys do lives too, or attend a lot of them. Gretchen and I were having a very like meta conversation about what it means to do a live, how you work it. I was, I guess, Chris, I was like, how much banter do I do at the beginning to give people enough time to come
Yep.
in?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh,
So, yeah, I mean, I think we've got a good crew here to get started with. So, you guys, in case you don't know already, welcome to Tilted Bench. The purpose of the show is that every week I have somebody on who's a coach. We talk about coaching. We talk about what it does, how it works, why it's important. These are good conversations. They are largely because coaching is something that I'm interested in. And so I wanted to create a space where coaches could talk about their work. So, Gretchen, thank you so much for being here. Why don't you start us off on that note by telling us a little bit about what you do?
Sure. Yeah. Thanks for having me, by the way. This is so cool. I love your intro music, by the way.
Oh,
That
thanks.
guitar is banging. Yeah. But yeah, so if anybody doesn't know me, and I'm so grateful that I know so many people who are here, but I am a career and personal leadership development strategist. And so, yes, I'm a coach. Strategy is a big part of what I do. And so basically, what I really help people do is pair the information, the intention they have to get to whatever goal or make whatever change they have with the right implementation that they need. So it's basically a way to process information so that they can prevent creating avoidable negative situations. And that goes very much to what the topic is today, which I love because it's a nice dovetail into self-command, perception, and reality. And what does that look like? So how I do what I do is I use a blended framework, and that framework is my RAM thinking method, which is mine, and then my training with the PQ, the Positive Intelligence team. So their PQ mental fitness training program. I combine both of those to do exactly that, pair the right information, the right strategy with, or the right implementation with the information and the intention that they already have. And the way that that works is it produces change that can last a lifetime. There's no fluff or puffery on that. It actually happens. And so, I just ask people, imagine, speaking of self-command, imagine what becomes possible for you in life, in your job, in this moment, when you can stay calm, lower your stress naturally, and be positive, even in the middle of absolute chaos, when you can take a beat and do that for yourself. When you're facing the most difficult, like seriously, this is where self-command lives. And so, you think about what becomes possible in your relationships, your career, your finances, your life, anything. That's what I do. So, yes, career, because I work with a lot of people who seek me out to help them with a career challenge. I didn't get that promotion. I got passed over for the third time. My boss, he's undercutting me at every turn, or taking credit for my work. And how do I fix this? And so we basically deconstruct what's happening, but get back to the root of the matter, not a symptom. The symptom is I didn't get what I wanted. Now we need to understand what factors are at play that are creating that. And bonus points if we determine that this is a repeated pattern that they've seen elsewhere in their life or their career, because that really gives us a very firm starting point. So that's a very long-winded way of saying what I do, but to me, it's important to mention that, because a lot of there are many different kinds. And I love the idea for your show, Nathan. I love that you're doing this, because there are so many nuances to coaching, and there are so many different kinds of coaching. You can have 5 career coaches on a stage, and they're all going to have a different approach, and they're all going to have a different method, and they're all going to have a different way. And that's good, because what that does is bring on more, because that just gives more resources for other people who need some kind of support. It gives them a smorgasbord, a buffet, if you will, of options, and no one should be devoid of options. So that's me in a nutshell, a big nutshell.
Absolutely. I love it. It's well, you shouldn't be crammed into a small nutshell, Gretchen. You deserve space. Normally, you guys, I don't put on the chat overlay because this is housekeeping stuff. Because I usually have folks just on the one spot, but we've got people coming in from a few different places, so I'm going to put it on just so everybody can see each other's comments. It makes it a little nicer that way. Speaking of people showing up at the chat, hi Paul. I saw Carrie and Dean are on YouTube, so I want to make sure y'all don't get missed.
Yeah.
Gretchen, can I? This is I keep wanting to ask you about this, and I've never done it. So here we are on the show, and we've got an audience, so I can ask for me and for them too, right?
Okay.
Can you tell us a little bit about the RAM method, like a little bit of what that is, how that works, what it stands for? I mean, I'm assuming
Yes.
it doesn't mean like ram things down your throat, but
No, it definitely does not mean that. So, RAM thinking is basically the fact that everyone lives at the top of the results pyramid, and that's a very awful pyramid that I'm doing, but it's the results pyramid. So if you've ever seen it, the pyramid basically at the top is the R, the results, the reality that you live. So that's the R in RAM. The A is the actions that you took to get those results. The M is the mindset that you have that produced the action, good, bad, or in between, that you took to get those results. So that's the RAM and RAM. Now, it's important to know that your mindset comes from somewhere, and it comes from the views that you have about everything, the opinions that you have, and the beliefs that you have about them. Any habituated thought that you have about something becomes a belief. I can do this. I'm not good enough for that. My boss doesn't like me, whatever it is. If you say it enough and you sort of incant that to yourself enough, it does become a belief, and you will develop, your mindset will become focused on that, and you will take action based on that belief. So going way back to when we were teenagers, if you saw someone that you were attracted to but didn't think you were in their league, you might not go to their club events, or you might not go to that game, or you might not go to wherever they were hanging out, because you don't believe it's going to happen anyway. So you're just going to take yourself out of the running for it. Same thing happens in modern day as adults, in our careers, in our lives. We don't, if we don't believe something is possible, we're not going to take the chance anyway. If we think it's marginally achievable, then we'll do it. But depending on how marginal that is, it will depend on what effort we put into it. So again, that's the R, the A, and the M. And then of course below, your views, opinions, and beliefs, you have, your conscious awareness that we are, sentient human beings, and we do have choice. And so again, all those things, they compound on each other. They're not independent of one another. And you have and they build on each other. So that's the RAM. That's RAM thinking in a nutshell, is the mindset that you have, and understanding what feeds your mindset. And your mindset is basically what produces the actions that you take or don't, and that basically is responsible for the reality of the results you get. And if you aren't happy with any area that you have, if you're unsatisfied, unfulfilled, whatever, then you want to drill all the way down and take a look at what you're telling yourself about the thing you want. The thing you want, that you say you want, do you really believe you can have it, or do you believe you deserve it? So that's where we get into, that's RAM thinking.
I I am constantly fascinated and just delighted by the way that in this community on LinkedIn, we have these themes that are constantly coming up and that we carry across different conversations. Paul and Susanna are both here. They have their thing that they talk
Yes.
about with impossible, and then with a little bit of punctuation in space, changing that to I'm possible. And
Yes.
that it's about mindset. Like you have to move past the story you're telling yourself that says, I can't. I have small kids. So for us, it's the little engine that could that we read over
Yep.
and over, right?
Yep.
You need to be able to tell yourself that you can. And this is right here in the title of this episode, right? Where we're talking about perception and reality. If you are
Yeah.
perceiving that you can't and you're telling yourself you can't, that may not be the reality. But if you tell yourself that enough, that story will become true. You will begin to incarnate that inability to do it if you keep telling yourself that.
And the other thing too that's important when it comes to perception and reality is, well, there are many things that are important, but no two of us are going to have the same perception on things. And because of that, no two of us are going to have the same reality. And a lot of people are like, oh, that's like out there thinking. It's really not. And I've got a couple of examples, but the reason for that is because reality is actually tucked inside perception. And so If anybody wants to do a show of hands, like give them a hand emoji, simple question. Have you ever texted or emailed somebody who took a little bit to get back to you, or maybe they never got back to you? Did you ever at one point wonder, are you mad at me? Are you ignoring me? Or I guess I'm not important. They didn't respond to my text. That's a perception. There's no, and you will create a reality because our brains are wired to fill in gaps. We're gap fillers. So it's just part of the evolution of how we are. Everything in the world has evolved, including our bodies, right? We don't have, we don't really need our spleen or our appendix, but they're still there. But our brain has never fundamentally changed in the way that it operates. So we still have all the survival and the basic thinking back here and all the creative problem solving up here. And a lot of times what happens is we default right back here, and we create those narratives based on that survival brain, that perceived threat or danger. It doesn't have to be real for you to believe that it is. And that is also human nature, and so where perception and reality, intersect and they are one and the same, that happens for people. So we start to create narratives based on that. If you never got back to me, I sent you a really important text. I needed help with something. I was having a moment. You weren't there for me. You ignored my text. You weren't there for me. And now when you reach back out, I may have a little edge to myself with you. You weren't there for me. Now you want my help? Did you not see my text? But sometimes we don't ask that question. We've created a narrative and we will act on that narrative. Mindset, action, reality. It happens every day. I have seen entire careers tanked because somebody misinterpreted and didn't try to clarify someone else's action. And then they took action based on what they perceived. If anybody remembers, and Carrie was in the presentation I gave for Great Careers Group last Thursday, but I used the analogy of that. Remember the dress from 2015? Is it gold? Is it black? Is it blue? Right?
Yes, totally forgot about that.
Everyone had a different perception of that dress. And they were incredulous with each other. How can you see it's gold? It's clearly black. And the team gold was like, guy, I don't know what's wrong with your eyeballs. Different perceptions, different realities, and they have to be different because, again, we're all going to be we have different experiences. Steve and I, when our house blew up, I had a full-on panic attack one night. He's sleeping like a baby. How is this possible? We were both in the house when it happened. So people will have different realities, and that's okay. It's understanding where that comes from and understanding how our mind works to fill in those gaps and being able to arrest that process. That goes to self-command. That's why I love that you put these together, because when you can understand, that self-command really is all about being in control of your mind. And again, that text is a great example to know if you are or not in control of your mind. If you've ever had that worrying thought that someone didn't respond to you, or if you said hey to somebody in the elevator and they didn't respond back, and you created a story about, well, they're just rude, they're just not, they don't care about me, then you're not in full control. And that's okay, because you can get in full control. And it's a practice, and it's like a two-pronged practice. And on one side, to gaining self-command, you have, and there's a word here I'm going to say, and I would love for you to tell me what the image or thing that comes to your mind first when I say the word mindfulness. What comes to your mind first?
Well, I mean, you guys drop your thoughts in the comments too. I mean, for me, I think of there's a bit of a tear. Like on the one hand, I get this image of like a Buddhist monk, right? Because they talk about mindfulness, awareness.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, there's this competing image that is like just a regular person or me or somebody in our normal life, because, I studied religion and both of my degrees, and there is this tension between the sacred and the profane. And the sacred is all this spiritual stuff that a lot of people think is woo woo, but then there's the like mundane day to day, our real life, and those things that may get talked about by philosophers and monks do have bearing on real life, and mindfulness comes into play. And this is the thing that we talk about when we talk about being hijacked by our mind. If you're paying attention to your mind, if you're watching your perceptions, you're not going to get hijacked because you'll see it coming.
Well, there's another thing too that it often goes unrecognized and unpracticed when it comes to mindfulness. And mindfulness again is that intentionality to be in the present moment. But the special sauce to mindfulness is being in the present moment without judgment. So it's not judging the person not getting back to you for that text. It's not judging somebody when you're talking to them, picking up their phone. Rude? What if they just got a 911 text from their child's school? Is that rude? But does that change your perception, the reality that you are experiencing? So these things are really fundamentally important. And so why that non-judgment is important and it's so critical is that and again, this goes to the PQ training that is the blended framework with RAM thinking. We all have behaviors and thoughts that sabotage our success. The judge is one we all share because, again, that universal need for protection, survival, all that kind of stuff, perceived threat and danger. And we notice it before we notice anything else, even if it's not real. So when we do those things and we create those things, we are in judgment of that. Let's say that at some point you get woken up in your sleep. That text, I sent that text to my boss. What did I say in that text? Did I insult him? Is he mad at me? Oh my gosh. He put a meeting on my calendar for tomorrow. That text, he never got back to me on that text. Oh my gosh. You're going to freak out. That's your judge. That's your judge on your shoulder going, hey, guess what? Something you did was wrong. And it's not wrong. So that's that non-judgment. And it is hard to do. It is hard not to judge somebody that we see who may have asked us for help 2 days ago. And now they're, on social media showing a picture of an expensive coffee they got. Well, you just asked me for help. How do you have money for that coffee? That's your judge. That's not mindfulness. So mindfulness gets tagged as woo-woo, but it is the way we go about our day or it's not. And it's important because it is one prong of self-command. You have to have it to be in self-command, and be in control of your own mind and your own responses, reactions, and ding, 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 your reality. So again, part of that on the other side of mindfulness, the two prongs, is intercepting those behaviors, those thoughts, the mental and physical behaviors that cause you to have those judgments and other things that you do. Again, it's why we do or do not do things, why we worry about things, the narratives that we create for ourselves. And so self-command is also, in addition to being a full-on, it is being in control of your mind and your thoughts and your actions, but it is also a practice that you have to do every day, and it is hard. But it is also a superpower. It really is. And it is hard to do. And I don't know anybody who will say it's so easy, because we all falter all the time. Life happens, and you have to figure out how you feel about what's happening. What does this mean to you? Is it real what it means to you, or are you just worried about what it means to you? These are all very important. And again, going back to the title of your show, which was genius, tucked right in the middle there, sandwiched between self-command and perception reality, is success. You can talk yourself out of good stuff by believing it's not going to happen. Either you innately believe it, or you believe that person isn't going to help you get it or give it to you or support you in it.
Yeah.
We create those situations, and we can uncreate them. You can absolutely, it is a skill that you can develop, and you do it little course corrections, little bits every day, and you can do it. Everybody can do it.
I think one of the things that, and let me pause for a minute, Gretchen. You've complimented the title 2 or 3 times. You guys, I didn't come up with this on my own. I came up with this talking to Gretchen. So this title is
you did? I thought
we were going back and forth on this.
I know, but I thought it was such an organic thing.
you had said something. And the other thing is, anytime I have a guest, I'm always prowling around, snooping on your content. I'm what are they talking about that I can turn into a title? Right. So, this title is you. This title is very much you. It's things from you that I just kind of put together in what I'm hope is a clever way. And if it is a clever way, then I'll blame that on all of the copywriters I follow. They finally had an effect on me. But no, I wanted to say that I think so much of this is, and I imagine you'll agree with me here, but that this mindfulness is also about openness. You have to keep yourself open. You have to remain in control of yourself enough that you can be curious about what the story is that you're telling yourself about things. Fear is one of those things that kind of locks us up. We get nervous, we get afraid, we don't want to ask questions. We have the story that we've been telling ourselves. It may not be right, but it's comfortable. We know it and we stick with it. And so we close down. And until you can open up and start asking questions about all that, you'll be stuck and you won't make it to that point of success.
It's really important. It's, I some people that I'm very close to and care very much about had some very bad news, fall upon them yesterday, and we were talking about it last night. And the first place a lot of people go when news happens that we perceive as bad is to the negative. All these other cascading things of doom are going to happen because this happened. And again, you said it so perfectly. It's comfortable. It's what we know. It's what we always do. If your boss says, you got 5 minutes tomorrow, I want to talk to you. You're like, is he not happy with the project? What did I do? Did I not get something in on time? Like, we immediately go like, what does he want? What's the problem? Instead of, cool, I get 5 minutes with a guy or a lady who's like super busy, but it's all on me now. I get to, like, that's my time. What am I going to do with it? Right. And
Right.
again, this is a practice to get out of that mindset. And I got, again, and this is personal experience. I got to a point where, years ago, things were happening and I catastrophized everything. I got really good at it. I could have done a master class and how to take a kernel and blow it up into the biggest, event ever. And just like that's a practice that we learn over, eons, entire lifespans before us and that we're a part of. You can unlearn that through practice, daily practice. But yes, it is something that is very comfortable. We don't know this over here. It could be all blue sky of opportunity over here, but we don't know it. We know this. We know where the edges are of this. It may not be comfortable, may not be happy, but we know we can live there. Yeah.
This is a good place for me to kind of ask a technical coaching question.
Yeah.
There's a great Hidden Brain podcast episode that I heard however long ago, this is several months ago, about complaining. And they're right, like, we love to complain about bad things. Complaining can be useful kind of briefly in the sense that misery does love company. Complaining and agreeing over those complaints is a way to kind of create a bond. People can connect over that. But the complaint at the end of the day doesn't serve you. You need to find, back to this RAM, actions, right? You need to find actions that are going to move you past that complaint. So when you're working with somebody, what kind of tension and balance do you find between like acknowledging those complaints, which obviously you have to do, but also like saying your mindset has to get past that?
So it's again it's that practice. Now I have to validate and acknowledge the fact that if it's real for you, it's real for you. It doesn't matter how I feel about it. You feel that whatever is happening and whatever you're telling yourself about it is real for you. And so I have to understand that. But negative, criticism and all those things, they have a usefulness. It's just like, negative thinking or being scared about something. It's good for about a second or two. Beyond a second or two, it doesn't have a purpose. That's an alert signal. That is your mind and body, sometimes your alert signal. I need to be aware. There is something going on here I got to be aware of. But once you realize that it's not an immediate danger. If you got bad news, if the cop's behind you pulling you over and he's not, like doing something terrible, that immediate danger is over. Now it's a situation we have to deal with. So what I do is I try to ask and try to draw out from them what is tangentially hanging on to the edges of that fear, that negative thought. Where are we coming from? And so, and out, there's like, what's the worst that will possibly happen from this scenario? Okay. And they'll tell me what's the worst thing that will happen from that. Right. So like, again, if you hear it's common right now, a lot of tech layoffs, a lot of people, are in that space, and others in general. Okay. There's a job loss. What's the worst thing that's going to happen from that?
Right.
I don't have any money to, pay my bills. Okay. What's the worst that's going to happen from that? I might lose my house. Okay. What's the worst that's going to happen from that? Right. I might have to go live with in-laws or relatives, or, I might have to move, or, and you keep going. And the reason that you do that is you'll hit a certain point where people are like, all right, I can live with that. And then you can start to ask them, some other really tricky questions are, okay, this happened. Can you stretch your mind? And you can tell me I'm full of it, but let's stretch your mind. Can you think of 3 possible opportunities in this? Just give me 3. You just lost your job. Give me 3. I don't know. I can't think of any. Okay. You loved your job. You loved everything about the company. Your boss was great. Well, no, I didn't love, they had this policy about you couldn't do this. You couldn't, I had to like put my vacation notice in a month before. I did. Okay. So now you don't have to worry about that. That's one. Well, yeah, but that's really, but it's still one. It's an opportunity. So you draw that out. And what it does is it begins again, getting your brain thinking off the stem into the flower, right? Get it off the stem, the survival area, into the prefrontal cortex where all problem solving and beautiful things can happen here. And your brain actually does shift. And that's another reason why it's a practice. You do it little by little every day. Something happens and you tell yourself, okay, the sale isn't on anymore. I'm not going to get the sale price. Or, okay, I ordered this and I got that. And okay, it's not the end of the world. Or how can I look at this differently? Like today, the shirt I'm wearing, actually, I had to fix something in our house and I had to use super glue to do it. And I got dribble super glue on this blouse. You can't get that out. And I was like, okay, now I got to change my clothes. I'm doing Nathan's show. This is terrible. I'm going to be, oh my gosh. And then I was like, wait, okay, I'm only going to be from here up. Ain't nobody going to know, right? I can be okay. So it's not the terrible thing I thought it was. Now what's the other opportunity that I have? Because I was like, great, I got to throw out this blouse that I actually like. No, I don't. No, I don't. I've saved it. Now what's the other good thing? Well, I did fix the thing that needed fixing, so I don't have to worry about that anymore. So again, it doesn't have to be the big, huge thing in life. It could be a little everyday thing. And when you start with those little everyday things, they become habits to look for the not the uh-oh, but the okay in the uh-oh. And you can do it.
Yeah, you
You can
can
do it.
unhijack it, as Sam is saying. Like, I
Yes,
like
you
that way of
can.
putting it.
Yes, you can.
Yeah.
Yeah, off the stem into the flower. That's what you want to do.
Make that move in the right direction. I mean, this is when we use the word reframe, like people love to use that word because it's a great word, because that's what you have to do. You have to reframe things to
Absolutely.
find the positive thing. Like you get caught up on, and guys, we're about to run out of time, so we'll wrap this one up. But the idea of that, like something bad happens on the way to fixing the thing, like the super glue drips.
Yep.
Well, why do we completely forget about the thing is fixed? Like that part of the reality is now gone, and the perception moves to, I have super glue on my blouse, and that's
Yep.
all that you're focused on. Like, but
Yeah.
that's the brain going the wrong direction.
And it's
So
human nature. Yeah.
it is. And, I mean, this is another thing I think about with mindfulness, right? That like mindfulness is one of the amazing, powerful tools and skills that we can use to counteract some of the more problematic parts of our nature. You can't be
Yeah.
something other than what you are, but you can work with it in good ways. And so you accept
Yeah.
yourself, but you work with yourself too. And mindfulness allows you to do that.
Yeah, it does.
Um, we've got about a minute or two left.
This went fast.
I knew it would. I just didn't know it would go this fast. Gosh, this
Yeah.
is just good stuff. Like, this is some of the best stuff. Um, I, I would, oh, yeah. Let me flip that up there.
Yep.
To be able to make a choice that you normally wouldn't get to choose,
Absolutely.
because sometimes the hijacking happens and it makes it for you.
Yes.
But so, Gretchen, tell everybody, in case they don't already know, I think most people do, but just to be sure, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Yeah, I mean, Gretchen Skalka on LinkedIn. If you're on LinkedIn, you can go to at symbol the flight attendant on YouTube. It's new, but please subscribe, join. I'm going to put good stuff there. And then Career Insights Consulting is the name that I chose for the business. And so careerinsightsconsulting.com, Career Insights Consulting. It's a mouthful, but LinkedIn is probably the best way. Again, because most of what I do is professionally based. So Gretchen Skalka on LinkedIn. Yeah.
Right on. And then the last thing is, I always ask the guest to give us a little 1 minute kind of ish nugget of wisdom. I think I forgot to remind you about that in the pre-live. So I hope you're not feeling too on the spot, but you're pretty good about being on the spot anyway. So I'm going to let you have the whole screen for this one. It's all yours. Give us a nugget of something that you just want us to take away, something you want us to remember.
Yeah. I would just say this. You never have to respond and react in the moment unless you're on fire. Seriously, you don't. So if something has happened that's throwing you off or is giving you that skew negative, give yourself time to calm down, diffuse your inner bomb, all that kind of stuff. Try like breathing in for 4, holding for 4, and exhale for 4. Do it 3 times in a row in less than a minute. You will naturally lower your anxiety level by regulating your heartbeat and your lung capacity. and you can be calm and you can sort of face decisions that way. Again, that gets you off the stem and into the flower, which is where, again, all of your problem solving is going to happen. So I hope that was my minute. It may have been less. I don't know.
Oh, sorry. I was doing the breathing.
So good. It
No,
worked.
I
It
love it,
worked.
Gretchen.
Four,
Thank
four,
you so
four
much.
times 3. Yes.
I
Thank
love
you.
it. Everybody, thank you so much for being here. Gretchen, thank you. Gosh, it's awesome stuff. We are out. We are going to, Gretchen and I are going to sit in the post live section and talk about how awesome all of you guys are probably for a minute. And I hope we will see you next week. Brian Berman's down there in the comments. Brian is going to be up next week. It's going to be more good stuff. And I hope we see you then. Bye, everybody.